Hey, everybody, welcome to the Hot and Hauter podcast. I'm Artie.
And I'm Dan.
Every episode, I give Dan a recipe and we find out if it's
A success,
or a disaster.
nevertheless, it's bound to be an adventure. Let's get to cooking.
Dan,
Artie,
what did we make this week?
you had me. You're on some sugar kick. We did brownies,
Yep.
and now we did cake pops.
Baked good.
Okay. All right.
Because I remember somebody saying they want to do more baked goods.
That's true. You are right. However, baking is such a small piece of this entire process.
It is. It's kind of fun to do, though. This is a fun recipe.
It is very eye-opening as to how complicated these little desserts can be. Like you see them like in the stores and they look all, perfect and this crap is hard.
Yeah.
This is hard. Anyway, we did cake pops. What do you got for me, Artie?
What do you mean? What I got for you?
You don't have your history up, do you?
No, I do. I'm just messing with you. So cake pops it's a very short history. They were invented in 2008. I know the exact date, actually. January 28th of 2008. And it was invented by a food blogger who does go by the moniker Bakerella. Her name is Angie, and it's her website is bakerella.com. But yeah, she made velvet cake pops, and they had a pink white chocolate coating. But yeah, 2008.
It's very rare that we have such a specific date of origin.
Yeah,
on these items,
and it's actually documented for historical preservation.
Oh yeah, she wants to make sure every cake pop knows
going
where it came
forward.
from.
Listen, cake pop.
Okay, so did she have any specific? You said it was like a pink frosting.
It's the chocolate coating that you do, so you can get the white chocolate or the chocolate coating, the brown chocolate. Yeah, okay. Well, the white chocolate's not chocolate; it's whatever. It's what I'm saying.
I get what you're saying, but was the cake itself like we did a vanilla cake? Was there a specific?
Yeah. Hers was a red velvet cake pop.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't even think the recipe's still up anymore. There's just there's a link to it. She has a red velvet cake recipe that she then made cake pops out of, is what it comes down to. So,
well, that sounds good. I like good red velvet cake.
Yeah. But yeah, it was very simple to find, and it's a very we know exactly where it came from. So,
where was she history. Is she an American or was she European?
Yeah. She is American. I don't know where from. I doubt she didn't advertise her.
I made the cakes, but please don't stalk me.
Yeah, pretty much. Here's the cakes. My name is this. Leave me alone, you creeps.
Okay. Well, I think they're actually a really novel dessert. It's like a bite of cake presented in a really fun fashion. One thing that I know, or what I've seen people do, is different variations of the icing or of the coating, and as well as things you can put on it. I've seen them with little peanut crumbles. I've seen them with sprinkles and stuff, like drizzles of different types of chocolates and stuff. I've seen all sorts of things.
Yeah. You'll see once my video are uploaded, you'll see.
Oh, okay.
I'll do a little extra.
Well, all right. I'll get into the ingredients here. So the way that this recipe works is you basically have the components of a cake, but the way you assemble them are different.
Yeah.
And so if you can make a cake and you can make a buttercream frosting, then you can make cake pops, technically.
Yeah, 100%.
So the little bit of extra stuff that you need will be the chocolate melts, which is the candied chocolate that you will eventually coat the ball, and then just the sticks themselves to use as the handle apparatus. One thing that I do want to add to this that I had to kind of figure out was when you are letting the chocolate, the candy melt cool and harden around the ball, you need a place to hold it and you can't
Mhm,
really set it down on it. So I went out to like Hobby Lobby and I got some of
mhm.
that like floral placement styrofoam stuff
Yeah, yeah,
and I just used that. But I actually looked online. There's technically an actual cake pop holder and stuff like that, but get creative.
yeah. And if you don't wanna do that, you can just put them upside down with the stick pointing up. So that would mean the top of it would be flat, but
Yes.
you're gonna eat them anyways, so
That's true, but the ones that I've seen in really nice bakeries and stuff,
yeah.
they're, like, pristine and
Oh, yeah.
whatever, so if visual if you're a very visual person with your food, then you probably wanna find a way to have these be placed stick down in
Yeah,
some kind of slotted or hole device that can hold it up, and these can get kinda heavy too, depending on
yeah,
how dense and how big you make the head of the pop. So
yeah.
just be wary of that. Because one of the styrofoam things I bought wasn't strong enough, and it started
Uh-huh.
to, like, sag and pop down. But anyway, so those are the 2 or 3 things that are outside of your general cake and frosting. So, the vanilla cake we did was, room temperature butter, vegetable oil, granulated sugar, eggs, room temperature, some vanilla extract, flour, baking powder, your rising agent, some salt, and then you went with buttermilk this time.
Mhm.
Um, I'm not gonna go through the whole process. I think we've done a cake before, and most of you can kinda understand how a cake works, but those are the
Yeah.
ingredients that we used for our vanilla cake, and those actually made 2 8-inch round pan cakes, about
Mhm.
1.5 inch thick, would you
Yeah.
say?
Yeah.
Okay. And then for the buttercream, we used a lot of butter, and we used a lot of powdered sugar. So a cup and a half of I'm sorry, for the cakes was unsalted, for the
Yeah.
buttercream was salted butter.
Yep.
So a cup and a half of salted butter. Uh, then we've done something with vanilla before, but this time you decided to go with paste
Yeah.
instead of just an extract. So we did
Mhm.
2 teaspoons of that, and then a whole 2-pound bag of confectionery sugar, powdered sugar.
Yeah.
And then you had to eyeball the milk, anywhere between 2 to 8 tablespoons of milk. And
Mhm.
that was the frosting or the
Yeah.
buttercream. And the general approach, you bake your cake, you know, you do your dry ingredients, you do your wet ingredients, and then you combine and then you pour and you bake them. Pretty straightforward. Uh, One thing I do want to get back to, and post making mine, I watched a couple videos and some of them did this, and I want to ask you about it.
Mhm.
Um, Whenever you go and then you make your buttercream, that's pretty straightforward. Cream your
Yeah.
butter, add, all that stuff. But the thing that I wanted to kind of get into with you was once you make your cake and once you make your frosting, the combination of the two is what makes that ball, what you
Mhm.
make into the ball.
Yeah.
And the consistency, the makeup of the ball needs to be really, really accurate.
Mhm.
Like the structural integrity of the ball
Yeah.
is is crucial because if the ball is too wet, then it doesn't
Mhm.
hold its shape,
Yeah.
or if it's too dry, it crumbles.
Mhm.
And so I made the mistake. Again, my brain is if it's on the paper, I'm supposed to use it.
Mhm.
So I used all of my frosting
Oh, okay.
in with my cake,
Yeah.
and my cake ball pre-batter was too wet.
Mhm.
And so I actually had to do this juggle of keeping it in the fridge,
Mhm.
taking it out, I made the balls and then I
Yeah.
put them in the freezer and then I'd
Yeah.
go and get like 2 or 3 and then dip them in the chocolate and so forth. So
Yeah.
I felt like I was under the gun of making a poor combination between the frosting and the cake batter. So,
Mhm.
anyway, so once you make your cake, once you make your frosting, you're supposed to let everything cool, let the cake cool, and make your frosting close to when you wanna combine the 2 because you don't want your frosting to be kind of sitting out for a while or you have to go
Yeah.
through this whole process of putting it in the fridge.
Yeah.
You crumble up your cake. Number 1, the harder coating on the exterior parts of the cake itself, was kind of problematic for me. The interior was fine. It
Mm-hmm.
was basically the edges and the bottom that was touching the pan or touching the parchment paper that was a
Mm-hmm.
little bit more cooked, a little bit harder
Mm-hmm.
than the rest of the bread. And I
Yeah.
felt when I was crumbling it up that was like I almost should have just cut that out, like do it like a little knife layer that out. So I'm just
Yeah.
dealing with the softer bread part.
Yeah. You can
Um,
100% do that.
okay, what did
Yeah.
you do? Because a couple things that I saw online, they said go ahead and cut out the harder parts because it can mess with the consistency of the cake ball. What did
It
you do?
can. It can. So I just crumbled mine up really well. Even the crunchy parts, I made sure it was essentially fine bread sand. So I
Okay.
made sure there was no chunks. But it is easier to just cut off the cooked parts, like the crunchy edges. Just
Mhm.
cut them off. That's fine.
Okay.
Like it's not gonna hurt anything. It's just a little bit of less cake, which is fine.
Yeah, and I don't
And
want any of the listeners think that, like, I burned it. It's just like you're you know, when
it's just cake. Yeah.
you make brownies, the natural edges are harder and,
Yeah.
drier because it's closer to the heat source. The
Yeah.
same thing with the cake, and I on the second one, I actually did that. The
Hmm.
first one I didn't. So, and then also the other side of it was there was a little bit of discoloration between that
Hmm.
harder parts
Yeah.
and the center part because it almost looked like cornbread. It really did.
Yeah.
It looked
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah.
So crumbling the cake, once I on the second one removed the harder edges, I felt I had a more similar consistency across the board, and I
Hmm.
didn't have any chunks.
Yeah.
Um, the the other thing that I struggled with was I made the buttercream. It was fine. I love the vanilla paste. I think I like that
Hmm.
more than the vanilla extract, or
Yeah.
having to get the vanilla bean and take the center stuff out myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
What made you decide to go with paste on this one?
I just wanted to try it because vanilla paste is essentially vanilla beans, all the centers extracted with like alcohol. So it's just a thicker vanilla extract is what it comes down to with the vanilla bean inside it. So you'll see the specks
Yeah.
when you add it to anything. So I just want to try it just to see how it worked, and I think probably going forward I'll just use that instead for all things because it's easier to deal with
Yes.
and it gives you that I think it's cool, the vanilla bean speckles in it.
Yeah, the
I think
little
it's
yeah,
cool.
absolutely.
Yeah,
It's like a
yeah,
texture kinda thing to it, a visual
yeah,
texture thing.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I'm with you on that. I just the potency of it versus vanilla extract or versus, extracting your own
yeah,
vanilla bean.
yeah.
So, anyway, I
It's
liked it. I liked it.
it's pretty one for one with vanilla extract.
Okay,
So like a teaspoon versus that is a teaspoon. Like it's not much of a difference. The
okay.
flavor is there.
It was also thicker, don't I mean, it is a
Mhm.
paste. It
Yeah,
reminded me of, like, the molasses we used in the last
yeah, yeah,
recipe.
yeah.
Okay. So, that was kinda cool. I enjoyed using that. Uh, there's just so much powdered sugar.
There's
Um,
a lot. It's a lot.
it's a lot of powdered sugar. And I used absolutely all and then even a little bit more milk,
Hmm.
for my frosting, for
Yeah.
my icing, whatever you wanna call it. I think it turned out pretty sweet. I don't know if I
Mm.
would use that much powdered sugar. I might next time pull back on the powdered sugar a little bit.
I mean, next time just cut the recipe in half next time.
Okay. All
Um,
all across the board?
yeah, just cut everything in half.
Okay.
Because then it's a more manageable amount of buttercream. I mean, you can use buttercream for any whatever you want. So the extra, it's not like it's gonna go bad. You can just put it in the fridge and it lasts for a while. But it is a lot. It is really sweet. So
Mhm.
I would, in general, cut the recipe in half, and I'd probably take like a quarter of the powdered sugar off from that, just to
Okay.
like mellow out the sweetness a bit.
Okay. Yeah, ours they were pretty overpowering. And I have a sweet tooth, but
Yeah.
this was kicking my butt.
Well, it
And
also sounds like you used a little bit too much.
I used 2 pounds. That's what's on the
No,
recipe.
no, I mean when you were making your cake pops.
I made this one you said 16 cake pops sticks.
Yeah, about.
Okay. I had 22 cake balls.
Okay, so
I almost had
slightly off, yeah.
slightly off, and I was being generous with these, with the try not to sound gross here. My ball size were big, so
They're hefty balls.
they are, and so I think I had about. I made 18, actually 18 with the chocolate, and then I didn't get enough chocolate coating.
Yeah, yeah.
And I still have like 8 to 10 more non-covered balls in my freezer. And so this recipe is a lot. It is a
Yeah.
lot, and that's neither good or bad. It's just plan accordingly if you're gonna,
Yeah.
if you're gonna do that. So I found that the hardest part for me was the construction of the cake pop itself. Crumbling the cake was okay. I will try next time to be more thorough in the crumbling. I felt like towards the end, I didn't stick to my level of quality when it came to the crumbling, and because I kind of wanted to move on to the next part.
Yeah.
And then adding the icing wasn't too bad. I thought I got the wet sand, which is the texture you're looking for when you add the buttercream to the crumbles.
Yeah.
However, I think my wet sand was more like quicksand, and it was a little too wet. And I noticed that when I was forming the ball, that they were too easily squishable. They didn't have enough pushback to kind of hold their own form, rigidity or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I actually had to put it in the freezer for about an hour, and then it was much easier to work with there. But then again, I also noticed that my hands, the heat from my hands was causing them to break down. And so I started to get residual stuff on my hands, which was then affecting the texture of the ball. And then I had to, so I could only do so much, and I had to put it back in the fridge, and then I had to wash my hands. And so that was tedious to me. I was hoping that it was something that I could just sit here and make 20 balls and be done with it, not have to do this juggling act.
Yeah.
So that was a little frustrating, but I can see changing the amount of the ingredients, making sure that I watch that interaction between the dry and the wet a little bit closer. Again, I just used all the frosting. If I would have used a little bit less, I probably wouldn't have been in that boat. So that was the most frustrating. And then the chocolate coating. The chocolate coating was annoying, trying to figure out the mechanics. It's messy.
Yeah,
and
it is. Yeah.
So I have a lot of respect for chocolateurs. What do they call them?
Chocolatiers?
Chocolatiers, yes.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was my experience. You should be seeing some results from mine on the video right now, but ultimately, a lot of fun. A lot more work intensive than I thought it would be.
Yeah. So, yeah, the biggest hassle with this recipe is coating them in the candy coating. Just because it's just kind of messy, because you got to dip it in, make sure it's thoroughly coated, and you have to make sure that when you stick the cake pops in, that you've let the little bit of chocolate or whatever it is, candy coating, adhere properly, so when you dip them, it doesn't come off. It's kind of it's a little bit of a pain. Like, yeah, it just is.
What do you mean? It's not fun fishing out a cake ball from a vat of chocolate?
I mean, I love doing it. It's like a nice Saturday evening. I don't know. It's
please finish. Yes.
Activity.
Yeah.
Just make a bunch of cake pops and just dip it in some chocolate coating. A little wine, just have a good evening. No, it's a pain. It is.
It is.
But yeah, and the other aspect you need to pay attention to is when you put the frosting in with the cake, because the cake we have, it's a moist cake. It's not dry. So you don't need a ton of the frosting. You just, what is the best visual I can give someone is that sand that I forget what's called.
Kinetic sand.
Kinetic sand, there it is.
Yes.
That's what you want. You want kinetic sand. That's the texture you want.
Yep. I think of it like when you interact with it, you're actually going, is it wet or is it dry?
100%.
Like it has that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then since it was a moist cake, that probably did make it a little harder to deal with. But what you did was right. Put it in the freezer, let them get solid, and then pull them out and do it again. Like, that's what you do. And it's better to have a moist cake than have a dry cake with these things.
100%.
So like it's a little bit more of a pain to deal with, but in the end you have a better product. So I like a lot of my experiences were the same. I mean, I I think I put the right amount of frosting in. When I was forming the balls, of course, it sticks to your hands. But what I just have cold water running, and I'll just rinse my hands and go back. So it kind of
That's
keeps
smart.
my temperature of my hands not hot.
We've
And
done something similar where we had like a bowl of water,
yeah,
and we would wet our hands in between dealing with a
hmm
pastry or a pasta or something. I remember that.
yeah. So that's just kind of something you'll just pick up and just do.
Okay.
Luckily, like, where I'm making this stuff is close to the sink, so I just jump over there and come back real quick.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, you get them all formed, and then I put them in the fridge, just like you did, just to cool them off. And then you can't candy coat them. With mine, I tried to make like an Oreo version, so I made a chocolate buttercream, and then
Ooh.
I got these chocolate wafers, which are the best things. I forget the brand, but you'll see them in the video.
Okay.
They're literally just little chocolate wafers, and they're amazing. It's so good. Like kill a sleeve, no problem. And
You
you're
just
like,
got teleported to another world thinking
I
about
did.
these
I did. I was
things.
very happy just now. In fact, after this, I'm gonna go eat a couple more. That's how good they are.
Come back to us. Come back to Earth,
All
Artie.
right. Okay. All right. I'm here. So I crushed those up and then rolled the cake pops in those. So it's
Yeah.
like a little Oreo cookie deal.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, that's the cool thing about these is that they're fun to make because it's just a little ball of cake and you can do whatever you want with it. Once you coat it, as that coating is still warm, throw sprinkles on it, put like I did cookie powder. You can do whatever you want on it. And they're fun because you can get your kids involved and they can roll. I mean, it's food Play-Doh is what you're doing.
Exactly.
So it's fun. Yeah, and then they turned out good. They're tasty. They're nice and moist. I mean, it didn't taste 100% like an Oreo cookie, but it was still delicious. It was very chocolatey and vanilla, which, I mean, really, it's better because Oreo cookies are meh. I just polarized a lot of people, didn't I?
Did you just sabotage our listener base? Did you?
I'm just saying, if you had to choose between an Oreo cookie and a fresh baked version of that Oreo cookie from a bakery, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying it had the like Oreo cookie essence, but it's better because it's homemade.
Okay, that's fair.
That's it.
I thought you just crapped on Oreo cookies in general. I was like, whoa,
You
whoa.
just see Dan just leave.
Like,
I'm
come on,
done.
man. Double stuff would like to talk to you.
I just vision a very large man in a white suit.
If you eat enough Oreos, you're going to be large. That's
I mean, you are double stuffed. So yeah, they turned out great. They're tasty, and it's a fun thing to make. So
yeah, it is labor intensive though, especially if you've never done it before. And that's what I'm noticing with these baked goods is doing different versions or doing the same version and practicing it is really what gets you to being a good person, a good baker. And that's where I get frustrated because we do this, it's a one shot.
Yeah.
You know, this episode is a one shot of me doing that. So, you know, take my experience with the grain of salt because it was just my one time doing this. And of course, there's going to be natural learning process, natural frustrations that come with this. Next time, I have strategies that I know I will implement to make the process smoother and easier. Yeah.
And as we do more baking things, the basics of what we're baking basics apply to all these things. So you're going to take, like, we make bread. You're baking this at this temperature, this, and does this. And here's the reactions that makes the bread rise. You can then take that and do some other baked good. Or like this cake is the same as that cake or this cake. We're just doing a different version of it.
Yeah.
So it carries over.
Yeah, and just experience. You gotta you gotta get in there and figure it out. That's what you gotta do.
You gotta burn a few cakes before you bake a good one.
I am actually pleased. Like I was flying through it. Like the cake was easy, the buttercream was easy, and I know a year ago I would have been like, what am I doing? How do I do this? Looking at the directions 14 times. So there is learning. I like how you gave me another process and then put me back on my butt with regards to but no, it was good. Definitely something to do with your family. Definitely an overall good experience. So yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and just be aware, your cakes aren't going to be perfectly round little balls. They're going to be lopsided little things. Those perfect cooked balls you see. I'm a child. They use a tool to form them to be that perfectly spherical.
Sure.
So you can buy that off Amazon if you want these perfect little balls, or you can have your nice lumpy, odd-looking cake balls.
I thought there was something wrong with my hands because they were coming out really angular. I was like,
What?
why are you making cubes?
Why are my hands sharp? I don't get it.
Because like I would roll and then like I'd look at it, like that's almost a right angle. Like what is that?
Yeah. They just come out odd. And like there's other you can like they don't have to be round. You can do if you ever see those silicone ice trays, you can use like the big ones. You can make square cake pops. Like you can do whatever. That's the cool thing about these. It's up to your imagination.
Yeah, there's a lot of room for creativity.
Yeah, but they're not gonna be perfect, and it's okay. They're gonna taste good. That's what matters.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, cool. It was a good recipe. Definitely something I'd do it again. I might actually just steal the cake and cream, and just run with that. I mean, make me a nice little two-layer cake.
Yeah, I mean it's a good moist cake. It's tasty. It's a nice easy vanilla cake.
Yeah.
And I mean it's that buttercream. Buttercream is not hard to make. It's just it sounds daunting, but it's not.
No, it's just a lot of sugar.
It is. I mean, it's just butter and sugar. That's why it's called buttercream. That's all it is. It's butter
I get that.
and sugar.
It's just when you see the back end of how it's made, it really is an eye-opening experience.
Yeah. You're like, diabetes, please?
Yes, literally. Wow. I really like this stuff, but I should like it a lot less.
Should come with a hit of insulin.
That's true. All right, well, that's all I got, man. It was a quick little one.
Yeah. It was fun. It's easy. Go make a cake popper. 36.
Or 36. All right. Well, anything you want to say in closing, my good friend?
Nope. Just follow us at all the places. It's Haute and Hauter everywhere. You can get the podcast everywhere you get podcasts. Our website is currently I'm doing stuff with it, so it's not up to date. So you can see the other recipes on there, but I haven't uploaded anything new yet because I'm gonna probably be making some changes to it.
Mm-hmm.
But and then you can watch us on YouTube. That's it. All the places we're Haute and Hauter.
Sweet. Well, I guess until next time.
All right. Keep cooking, y'all. Bye.
Yeah.